sato ma sadgamaya tamaso ma jyotirgamaya mrityormamritam gamaya avirmaedhi rudrayate dakshinam mukham tena mam pahi nityam. Om, lead us from the unreal to the real. Lead us from darkness unto light. Lead us from death to immortality. Reach us through and through ourself, and evermore protect us from ignorance by thy sweet, compassionate face. The subject is sheltering in place spiritually, which seems to be a very current topic under the present conditions in society at this point because of the coronavirus. Of course, the meaning that was intended, sheltering in place, really refers to sheltering at home. In other words, the medical suggestion is that the place where one normally lives, that is the safest place. That is the place where we should remain during these medically challenging times. Of course, they only have, or principally have, a medical reason for suggesting that. But really speaking, that's what we're always trying to do in some way or other. We're trying to shelter at home. We're trying to find out, first of all, what is our home? Where do we belong in this life? What is the place where we really feel that we are where we belong, that we have reached where we want to reach, that we're actually it's marked by total satisfaction, by a cessation of restlessness, by a cessation of a desire to be somewhere else and do something else. That is our home. It's a place where we're totally comfortable and totally at rest. And so when they say shelter in place, it really means sheltering at home. That's what they medically also they want us to do, because the people that we're normally living with, they're the ones who medically we have the least concerns about, because we know them very well, and we've all cooperated to make the place safe. So sheltering at home is the suggestion. Of course, they mean it in a very practical way. But spiritually speaking, we could very well ask ourselves, suppose we had to shelter for a long time, say for an infinitely long time, where would we be comfortable in staying for an indefinite period of time? And generally, no place satisfies that condition. At some point or other, everything becomes either old, that is to say, it cannot be used much anymore, or we become tired of it. In some way, there's some restlessness comes. So the question from a spiritual standpoint is there such a place where we would feel at home, where we could shelter not just during a pandemic, which supposedly will be over once a vaccine is, acceptable vaccine is achieved, but in a very general sense, for our whole being, for our whole life, for our whole existence, is there a place that we can call home? Is there a place where we can feel totally satisfied and all restlessness, all desire for something else, all desire for diversion or entertainment or change, all such desire is quieted? Is there such a place? And that is the basic spiritual quest anyhow. We want to find God. What is God? God is attaining that reality which we call God. The clear implication is the satisfaction of all needs, of all uncertainties, of all satisfaction. No longer is a change necessary. This is where we can remain for all time, so to speak. Or time itself will vanish, and we are in that condition in which the very idea of change, or the very situation where change could arise, no longer exists. So, in other words, what we want to achieve is a state of equilibrium. Now, from a scientific standpoint, there are two kinds of equilibrium. There's stable equilibrium and there's unstable equilibrium. So there is an equilibrium, say if you have a metal ball at within a container. If that metal ball is such that it settles to the bottom of the container, and whenever you disturb it, it again goes back and forth until it settles again at the bottom of the container. So at the bottom of a spherical bowl, you could say you have a marble. And when you disturb that marble from where it is at rest, it naturally wanders back and forth a little in decreasing swings, and then finally it settles at the bottom of the bowl. So that is called stable equilibrium. And of course the opposite is unstable equilibrium, if that bowl is turned upside down and you place that marble on top of it, any little disturbance and the instability will increase and irreversibly. So that is unstable equilibrium. So the point is that how do you define, what would be a way of defining a place where we're at rest, or a place in which we could remain in state of total satisfaction for an unspecified length of time? It would be a place where you would have this stable equilibrium. Whatever disturbance to our position, our location, or to our, mentally speaking, to our mood, whatever disturbs our mental condition or spiritual or physical condition, we're in a situation in which that disturbance is quiet and it's not increased, it's not something that will grow. So it will gradually, the disturbance will be less and less, and we'll be again stable in that equilibrium state. Now, this is what we're trying to achieve. So what is it that, how can we view this? Now, there's another aspect to it, that even the state of, why is it that we lose that state of equilibrium? It could happen in a natural way that we have no particular agency in causing, but frequently we ourselves, or most of the time, we ourselves disturb that state of equilibrium, because there is in us also not only a desire for that state of peace and state of rest, there's also a desire for the opposite. There's a desire for adventure, there's a desire for danger, there's a desire for self-exertion. That is just as important as the desire for peace, tranquility, stability, satisfaction. So how are we to analyze this? If our basic nature is such that ultimately we want that state of equilibrium in order to obtain final and lasting ultimate peace, why is it that there is a desire, a need within us for actually disturbing that equilibrium? We actually take joy in disturbing that equilibrium, and then with great exertion we strive to regain the equilibrium. When we regain it, we feel a great sense of triumph, and we want to do this again. Why do people go down ski slopes, which are very close to perpendicular and tremendously dangerous and all that? They come with a great whoosh to the bottom of the slope, and then instead of being satisfied, okay, I've accomplished what I want to accomplish, I've managed to get back to safe terrain at the bottom of the slope, you immediately go up the slope again and go through the whole thing once more. When people go on a roller coaster, and the roller coaster is on the top of an incline and rushes down toward a pool of water at the bottom, and everybody screams with great, supposedly anguish, but nevertheless, after they come out, after they get off, they pay for a ride again, and they go through it all over again. And the children ask the parents, please let us go again on that roller coaster. So there is a need for instability, and there is also a need for stability. There's a need to shelter in place, and there's also a need to come roaring out of that position of shelter and stability and safety, and confront the whatever it is that's going to face us as we leave that state of stability. There's a joy in that. There's not only a joy, there's a need for it. And the fact of the matter seems to be, as sages and saints in all traditions have indicated, that both the state of equilibrium and the state of rest are part of a larger continuum. And in that larger continuum, there is no change. There is no home, because there's nothing else but home. There's no specific idea of achieving equilibrium. One finds that whether there's equilibrium or not, there is a vaster, a greater stability within which this equilibrium becomes only a diversion or a slight change. And the implication is that basically we all know this. We all know that there is an infinite reality an infinite, unchangeable reality within which all change takes place. We all know this because change itself cannot take place unless you're aware of a position, of a situation, of a condition beyond which there is no change, or within which there's no possibility of change. And we all know that there is, deep down within ourselves, we know that there is a reality which is ever unchangeable, which has never changed, has never come into existence because it always existed. It was existence itself. And this is the Upanishads. This is the reality that the Upanishads declare, that the Upanishads proclaim. Sadeva somya idam agra asit, from the Chandogya Upanishad, that existence alone was there in the beginning. And then in that same Upanishad, an argument is brought that some people say that non-existence was there in the beginning. Initially, there was non-existence. But the Upanishad itself answers that. How indeed could it be so that non-existence was there in the beginning, and from non-existence, existence was created? The Upanishad simply dismisses that possibility. And because of the fact of consciousness, that indeed that condition cannot arise. From non-existence, how could existence arise? Consciousness is the basic reality beyond which there is nothing. That means that this is the reality that we call Sat or Brahman, existence. It is existence itself. And once Swami Vivekananda also made that very strong point, that when you reach the level of unity, when you reach a level of existence alone, that all modes of existence, all types of existence, all qualities of existence, all adjectives and all qualifiers to the word existence, when one transcends that and reaches existence itself, there is nothing else. Because existence itself is the basic quantity, the basic idea. Sadeva somya idam agra asi. So agre, actually, in the beginning, it was existence alone. And that is still the basic reality, that is still the truth that the Upanishads proclaim, and that the great knowers of Brahman, the great souls, constantly proclaim that there is a reality beyond all change, which is unique, which is one. Advaita, we can't even say that it is one. Advaita, that means it is not two. It is a reality which is one and unchangeable. We can't even say it is one. It is beyond the one and the many. But when one reaches that state, or that even philosophically, when one analyzes and achieves that understanding, there's no possibility of any change. There are not any two. One cannot go any further. One cannot simplify it any further. One cannot get to a further fundamental reality once one has reached that state of oneness. And that is our real home. When we shelter spiritually, that's where we want to shelter. That's what we want to reach. And all the various spiritual practices are attempts to reach that to achieve that understanding and that experience. So this is explained, this is described very nicely in the Taittiriya Upanishad. And so just to get some, a little more clarity or a little more description of what it is that this state of home, the sheltering at home, what that would mean. We can take certain aspects of this Taittiriya Upanishad, which is one of the very old original scriptures of Vedanta. And we can, the Taittiriya Upanishad uses actually there are two chapters in which these ideas are considered. The second chapter describes different levels of consciousness. We have a level of physical consciousness, that means we are aware of the body and of things that are associated with the body, with the physical universe. And then beyond that, we have an idea that there is pranamaya kosha, there is a level within us which is not like the first. The first one is annamaya kosha, that portion of our personality which consists of food, annam, and is nourished by food, is generated by food. Within that, it describes the pranamaya kosha, that within that sheath of food, there is a sheath of energy which is contained within that sheath of food. Within ourselves, within our physical being, there is energy. And everything around us is manifested as not only as physical objects, but also manifested as energy, as power. So, pranamaya kosha, that pranamaya means it consists of prana, consists of energy. Within us there is that reality. And then manomaya kosha, within that is our mind, the mental sheath, which is then the next deeper aspect of our personality. So manomaya kosha. Within manomaya kosha is the vijnanamaya kosha, the sheath or that part of our personality which is dominated by buddhi, by intellect, by these deeper mental processes. So the Vijnanamaya kosha. Within the Vijnanamaya kosha, there's another reality called Anandamaya kosha, the sheath which is made of bliss. Now, we are aware of all these sheaths of food, of energy, of mind, of intellect. We're aware of those things. That sheath of bliss, we don't generally refer to it, but it is that which one can get a slight idea about by thinking of the state of deep sleep, when everything else has been quieted, the body is not felt because we are asleep, the mind is not felt, the prana is not felt, the mind is not felt. We're not engaging in thoughts, or there's no remembrance of past things, there's no anticipation of future things. There seems to be nothing there in this Anandamaya kosha. In this state of deep sleep, there doesn't seem to be anything in particular there. So why is it that we are so intent upon reaching this state of deep sleep? And if I can't attain that state, then I go to the drugstore and I get all sorts of medications to help me achieve that. But what is in that state? There's nothing, we can't point to anything in particular, nothing at all that we can describe. There's nothing there, so how could it be that nothing is such a precious commodity to us that we desperately want to achieve the state of nothingness? That doesn't make any sense, and the way it's analyzed, also this is taken into account, that there is something that is experienced in that state of deep sleep, which is extremely important to us. And that, what we ascribe it to is that it is the state that is very close to our own inner nature. Our own inner nature is surrounded by these different sheaths. And it is the light of the reality within, the light of consciousness, shines through all these sheaths. Because that ultimate reality, which we have talked about a few minutes ago, that inner reality, that inner consciousness is made of light, is the source of our wisdom, the source of our inspiration. It is but we can't specifically describe it. It is avang manasa gocharam, but it is the light that shines within us. And so that light normally shines through all these other sheaths, but when we are asleep, the physical sheath is not felt, the mental sheath is not felt, the sheath of energy, none of this is felt. Then it is said that that sheath of bliss, that Anandamaya Kosha, is most clearly experienced at that point. It's not an experience of the inner self of the Atman, but it's getting very close to this thought that the light of the Atman shines through all these sheaths. And in that innermost sheath, it is most clearly detected. And so that's why we're so terribly anxious to obtain that state of deep sleep. So, but this is all an analysis. The point is, how does one reach that? How does one attain that inner reality that we have determined? So then, for that, there is another chapter to this Taittiriya Upanishad, which contains a story of a student going to his teacher, and he's asking the teacher to tell him about Brahman. So this is the teacher. The student is approaching the teacher. Sir, revered sir, instruct me about Brahman. Brigur vai varunihi varunam pitaram upasasara. That is, Brigu approached Varuna. Varunam pitaram upasasara. Varunam, his father, Pita, he approached his father. And what did he say to his father? Adhihi bhagavo brahmeti. Teach me, revered sir, about Brahman. Tasma etad provacha, to him he said, Annam pranam chakshu shrotra manovacham iti. So all of these things are aspects or manifestations, or through them all Brahman shines. So, but how is it that Brahman shining through all of this, how is it that you're going to attain? How does one attain that realization? And so this is what he tells his son to think about, to do, in order to realize that which is at the heart of everything, the truth, the reality, the essence, at the heart of everything. Varunam pitaram upasasara adhihi bhagavo brahmeti. So, O Lord, teach me about Brahman. Tasma etad provacha. And then he tells him, annam, pranam, and all of that. Those are all aspects of experience. But what is it that how are you going to find Brahman in all these objects of experience? So he tells him this way, yato va imani bhutani jayante. Examine from which imani bhutani, all these beings, jayante, are born. From what are all beings born? Yena jatani jivanti. By what? Yena, by which? By what do these beings, having been born, by means of what do they live? Yat prayantya visam vishanti. What is that into which these beings descend after they leave from this place? Tad vijñāsasva. So you should know, try to find out what that is. Tad brahmeti. That is Brahman. That is that supreme reality that we're trying to find. So what did his son do? Satapo tapyata. He practiced austerities, that is spiritual disciplines. Meditation, concentration, and all the spiritual disciplines that are required of a spiritual aspirant. Satapas taptva, having practiced austerity, he then comes to the conclusion, the first conclusion. And the first conclusion is annam brahmeti vyajanat. What is it that he discovered? That anna, food, is Brahman, because he's following his father's instructions. The father said, try to find out from which all these beings come. That which, having come, they are sustained, and that into which, once they leave this plane, they are absorbed. What is that? So the most obvious thing is food, of course, because from food all these gives energy. These beings are born. By food, all these beings are sustained, and once they disappear, the physical entity decomposes and decays. And from that decomposition and decay, other beings are born. So naturally, food it must be the answer. But his father didn't criticize him. Very good teacher. He didn't criticize him because that might discourage the student. He said, no, do some more austerity. So he, Brigu said, all right, because he found that food really could not, that was certainly an answer to what his father wanted him to find, but really that could not be the final answer. So then he again performed austerities. What did he find? Prano brahmeti vyajanat. He found that prana is Brahman. Oh, yes, of course. Everything is filled with energy. Everything is sustained by energy. Everything comes from combinations of energy into energy. Everything that disappears, energy is always conserved. Energy is never destroyed. So energy is the source for everything. And so he went to his father and he says, now I have understood. Energy is Brahman. And so the father didn't criticize him. He was an excellent teacher. He didn't want to discourage the student, but he simply said, do more austerities. That, sure, from austerities you will know, but you have to do more than that. So he went again. He went further, and the next stage that he reached when he performed his austerities again, spiritual austerities, meditation, and other spiritual practices, he learned Mano Brahmeti Vyajanat. Mind is Brahman, because from mind all these things come, and in the mental, by the mental energy and mental activity, they're sustained. And that mental energy is what is passed on to future generations. So it must be that mind again. The mind is the central reality here. I mean, the body comes and goes, but mind is something that is not subtle, that is subtle, that is not subject to destruction like energy or or food. It is of a subtle nature, and therefore that must be Brahman. And so his father again said that tapo brahmeti. So in other words, he says again, tapasa brahma vijigyasasva, again perform austerities and try to investigate further, try to reach deeper. And so then he again practiced austerities, he again studied, he again absorbed himself in that endeavor. What is it? What is at the heart of everything? What is the reality? The question is, what is the reality of everything? What is at the very core, at the very center of everything? What is the cause of everything? What is that into which everything, that maintains everything, and what is that into which everything is dissolved? That was his father's definition. This is what his son was supposed to discover, from which everything comes, by which everything is sustained, into which everything goes. This is an amazingly scientific and rational approach. But the approach is through tapas. Tapas means, in many ways one could say it's the elimination of distraction. It's concentration of the mind. It's achieving one-pointedness of the mind so that the essence of things is understood, the essence of things is realized. Otherwise, every other type of action, either physical or mental or psychological, doesn't really get to the heart of the question. The heart of the problem is that we want to understand that which, understanding which everything else is answered. What is it that knowing which everything else becomes known? That is the questions asked in the Upanishad. What is the central truth of everything? And then they give you the method, of course, tapasa brahma vijigyasasva, by austerities, by concentration. Austerity means basically concentration of the mind, avoidance of distractions, getting to the essence, to the central reality of things. He went again further, and he found Vijnanam Brahmeti Vyajanad Vijnana, intelligence or intellect, the inner aspect of the mental faculty, is that reality, because that is the core of our daily life. When we get to that point, we have achieved the greatest depth that we can in the surface existence, in the ordinary existence of human beings. So Vijnana, that intelligence, the inner aspect of the mental function. But we're still dwelling in the mental reality, which is still associated with the physical reality, which still is that infinite reality from which everything comes, by which everything is sustained, into which everything is dissolved, still has not made its appearance. So again, his father tells him, go back and do more austerities. Then finally, these are all these sheaths which were talked about in the first section of the Taittiriya Upanishad. First a sheath of food, then within that a sheath of energy, within that the mental sheath, the sheath of intellect, of vijnana. Then now he came to the Anandamaya kosha. So again, Anandam Brahmeti Vyajanat. He understood that Ananda is Brahman. And there, the Upanishad stops. That is the point at which language stops. It can get to that point, and beyond that, the reality, the description of what it is that we're trying to find, the core of existence. Beyond that, there's nothing more can be said. We've gone beyond the mind, beyond avang manasa gochara. It's beyond the mind and it's beyond speech. We've gone beyond that. We've gone beyond the level of intellect. We've now come to the Anandamaya kosha, which is perceived to a certain extent in the state of deep sleep, which is the reason why this is such a profound state or a profound desiring of our mind, that we should, achieve that state every night. We don't know intellectually, we don't know what it is we have achieved, but we know we need that. It is central to our existence. Ananda Brahmeti Vyajana, that Ananda, because now we've gone beyond mind and speech, beyond name and form, beyond all description. And what that reality really is, being beyond mind and speech, we can go no further. So this analysis has to stop there, because it has reached the very boundaries of that space, which is beyond name and form. The area, the land beyond name and form is beyond description also. But this is when we're looking, the subject initially was that we want to reach that area where we can be at home, that area where we will not want to move out, that area which is our final and ultimate support, in which we have achieved what we want to achieve. We have answered what we want to, the questions that we had. We're in a state of equilibrium, that there's no more any tendency to go out, to reach out from that state, because we've seen that at the bottom of every action, of every activity, this is the state which every activity, every action, every endeavor of ours is trying to reach, is that state beyond description, which is at the heart of everything, which is infinite and eternal. So Bhrigu in this case has reached to that level, and beyond that there's nothing more that can be said. So there's no further description possible as long as we're talking about descriptions from which everything comes, by which it is sustained, into which it dissolves. At that point, we leave that realm. Once we get to the level of this Anandamaya Kosha, we cannot go any further. But that reality itself is still not there. It is still a kosha, it is still a sheath. But what it is that is covering, what this sheath is covering, is itself avang manasa gochara, beyond mind and speech, but it can be experienced. One becomes that. So at the basis of everything that changes, at the heart of everything that changes, this is the basic lesson that we're trying to reach, to understand. At the heart of everything that changes, there is a reality which has never come into existence, can never change, and that is the true home. That is when we're sheltering at home or sheltering in place. This is what we're aiming for. This is the reality that we're trying to achieve. And in order to achieve it, we have to, these are the disciplines that are prescribed. Of course, the discipline in the Taittiriya Upanishad was to do austerities. In other words, to restrain the mind, to inquire, to make that deep inquiry. What is it that is at the heart of everything? What is it that is the soul of everything? What is it that is the reality that all human endeavor is trying to reach? Because we're not able to think of spiritual, of a deep spiritual reality, we think of all these other things. We think about the physical sheath, the idea of what we want to accomplish in this world. And these are all grand things, these are all wonderful things, but the thing that makes them grand and wonderful is that they are not so in themselves. They are so because they provide a platform or a way or a means to achieve that which is truly one and truly unchanging and truly satisfying. And that particular one is that stable equilibrium that we're all trying to reach. So and the point is that we have to find that. It isn't that it is only a theoretical reality. We're not going to be released from that which changes until we find that which does not change, which is at the heart of everything that changes. Until then, we will be compelled to go this particular rounds of attempts. We go to our Father and we tell him, oh yes, this is wonderful, I've now achieved this. And the Father says, no, you've not achieved the real end of things, you've only achieved an intermediate station. Go further, go further. So there is the story of Sri Ramakrishna and the woodcutter, and that is a very profound idea in our tradition, that a a woodcutter whose profession it was to cut firewood and bring it to market to sell, which is obviously a very important occupation in a civilization for which this is the essential thing. Every day the fires have to be lit, not only for cooking, but also for spiritual offerings, for performing sacrifices to the divinities and so forth. So firewood is an extremely important thing. This man was going out to cut firewood, and he passed the holy man on the way, and the holy man looked at him and said, "Go farther." And so the man didn't think much about it. He went about his business, cutting a little bit of wood, taking a little bit of them to the market, earning a little bit, just enough to maintain himself. But then it came to his mind, why did the holy man tell me to go farther? Why don't I just follow what he said? So he goes and goes farther into the forest, and he says, okay, I'll go farther. He finds, some very precious woods that are especially costly, and he manages to cut those, and he gets more money. And wonderful, okay, well, that's great. Oh, I'm doing so well. But he said, no, he said, go farther. He didn't say go farther until such and so. He said, go farther. So he went farther, and then he found... they describe various things. He found a copper mine or something, or a mine of diamonds. Anyway, step by step, he went further. Until there's no end to that story. So this is the advice to us. Wherever we are, it ain't enough. Wherever we are, we're not there yet. We can go to our Father, tell him, oh yes, we found this, we've got, we've found a mine of silver, and he says, go further, so we find a mine of diamonds. Even that is not enough. No point that you can reach is enough. No goal that we can set for our life is enough. No matter how far we are and how intensely we have been able to, progress and what we have been able to achieve in life, it's not enough. So the point is, we have to do what we need to do. We have to become as great and as fulfilled as we can in a spiritual sense. But it will never be enough. It will never be enough, because there is, beyond anything that can be reached, at the heart of anything that can be reached, at the heart of ourselves who are reaching out, there is a reality which is beyond description, beyond mind and speech, after which this hunger for greatness, this hunger for experience, this hunger for joy, all hungers are totally satisfied. That is what we're trying to reach. That is our true home. If we want to shelter at home, that is our true home. And where is that? It is already within ourselves. It's already in the very center of our being. And what is the process for going there? Oh, there are 10,000 processes, 10 million processes for going there. But the major point is, don't stop. Because as long as you feel that you're still moving, or that you still have further to go, or that there's still a level of that is unsatisfied, you haven't reached it. You haven't gotten to the heart of it. You haven't gotten to the core of it. And where is it? It's already within. It's the externalizing tendency which is the problem. and not the thing that it's not the things that are perceived, but the tendency to externalize that is the problem. When one realizes that that reality is present in every perception, pratibodha viditam, it says in the Upanishad, this reality is to be seen in every perception. God is present in every moment of our life, in every idea, in every thought, in every perception. So we're looking for something with great desperation, but we're not looking in the right direction. What we're looking for is good and can be achieved, and it's fine in its own way. And it achieves a stable equilibrium at a certain level, and that is good. But no matter how far we go and how satisfied we are, there's still something further. When the desire to go further itself disappears, that there is nothing further, there is nothing beyond this area to go to. There's no question of anything being beyond, that we are fully there. And there is nothing else but that goal. That is, we're surrounded by God. Every perception is a perception of God. That is the expression pratibodha viditam. It is to be seen in every perception. God is the essence of everything that we perceive. We clothe it with a physical layer, and we invest it with a mental layer. But really speaking, the essence of what we're looking at, though it may be clothed and dressed and decorated in different ways, every perception is a perception of God. We should feel that in our hearts. That is the point. That is the idea of meditation, to feel in our hearts that we're absorbed in the being of God. There is only that reality here, and this is what we. This is the basic truth that we're trying to reach. This is the basic essence. This is where, when we find our shelter in that place, then we're really sheltering at the heart of everything. But where is it? That is all around us. It is an awareness. It is not a point of reaching anything, achieving anything. It's a point of awareness, being aware of what is really there, rather than what appears to be there. Thank you. Om Dhyau Shanti Antariksham Shanti Prithivi Shanti Apo Shantir Osharaya Shanti Vanaspataya Shanti Vishwe Deva Shanti Brahma Shanti Sarvam Shanti Shantireva Shanti Same Shantiredhi Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om, peace is in heaven, peace is in the sky, on the earth and in the waters. The herbs, the plants, and the trees are full of peace. The gods are peaceful. Everything in the universe is pervaded by peace. May that infinite universal peace enter our soul and being. Om, peace, peace, peace be unto us all.